What is the scariest, creepiest theory you know about? Okay, this one is rough, so please bear with me. So the common time travel question is, would you go back and kill baby Hitler? Well, imagine if that was you. To us in the current timeline, you would be a hero that killed someone truly evil before they had chance to corrupt or endanger anyone, but to the people of that time you are a monster. A baby killer. They couldn't exactly explain to people. I was sent from the future to kill this baby to save hundreds of millions of lives. No one would believe him and would just assume he was some nutcase. Or maybe they are not allowed to tell anyone as per the agreement with the future government? It makes you wonder all the people through time that have been called monsters for killing babies. What if they were just heroes from the future saving us all? They couldn't tell anyone either. Edit. I need to go to sleep, but I can't put my phone away because of this thread. If the human body senses trauma it is unable to combat, it will switch off metabolism, pump endorphins, and slip into a pain-free dissociative state. In essence, shutting down. It's been seen in air crashes and lots of places really. Basically your body can switch itself off. During the Challenger accident from 1986, whenever the shuttle exploded, the ground crews had the astronauts' EKGs and vital scans. After the explosion, the astronauts were still alive. Theory has it that they were cognizant the entire time until they crashed in the ocean. This is what actually happened. NASA never wanted to admit that the astronauts didn't die in the explosion. But there is a major probability that they were not conscious when they crashed into the ocean. The dark forest theory. This explains the free me paradox. Why we haven't seen any other advanced life forms despite the vastness of the universe. Other advanced life forms don't send out signals into the rest of the universe because they're worried that something more advanced and dangerous is going to find them first. There's another idea that other civilizations know there's something out there but don't send any signals because it has no reason to not wipe out the entire planet. There's a science fiction book based on this and I think this quote explains it better than I can. The universe is a dark forest. Every civilization is an armed hunter stalking through the trees like a ghost, gently pushing aside branches that block the path and trying to tread without sound. Even breathing is done with care. The hunter has to be careful, because everywhere in the forest are stealthy hunters like him. If he finds another lifeless sign of a hunter, angel, or a demon, a delicate infant, a tottering old man, a fairy or demigoddess, there's only one thing he can do. Our dumbasses sent out a golden recording of Johnny B. Good blasting through space. If you die by being beheaded, the last thing you might see is your decapitated body. The Vela Incident. September 1979. A US Vela satellite detected a double flash of light over an area of the ocean between South Africa and Antarctica. The prior 41 double flashes observed by the satellite were from nuclear explosions, as this is what they were designed to observe. There also happened to be a typhoon happening in the area at the time, so it seemed like someone wanted to detonate it without being caught. Carter administration reported that it was a natural occurrence due to a small meteorite hitting the satellite. However, many other independent sources and even other countries have reported that they did indeed find traces of fallout and radiation. Because of the geopolitical climate of the times, there's very strong evidence that it was in fact a joint nuclear weapon test carried out by South Africa and Israel. And the US scrubbed the information regarding it because they didn't want to paint their allies in Israel in a bad light for working with apartheid-era South Africa. Strangely enough, Israel and South Africa have never denied having nuclear weapons programs, nor have they ever denied a joint test being responsible for the Vela incident. Cosmology can be disturbing. For instance, I recently learned of dead-end trips. There are some destinations that you shouldn't try for. It's possible to travel so far away from where you started that the expansion of the universe will exceed the speed you were traveling at. You can't return home, because home is receding faster than you can travel. You can't reach your destination, because it too is receding faster than you can travel. You can no longer get anywhere, only get further away from everything. You cannot reach any destination, even if you travel forever. A lot of comments bringing up the Fermi paradox to explain the lack of evidence of extraterrestrial life, when by all accounts we should be seeing alien life all over the universe. Here's another unsettling explanation. If you're scuba diving above a coral reef, and you know that there should be fish all around you, but you don't see any, it's most likely that they have learned that for some reason it's important not to be seen. And since you're a newcomer to this environment, chances are it's not you they're hiding from. Edit. The number of scuba divers saying they've experienced this and then noticed a shark nearby is alarming. Not theory but fact. That a robot could fail a Turing test if it wanted to. The theory that scented candles starting getting poor reviews at the same time COVID hit the US. Makes you wonder how many people have mild COVID before we even knew about it. Pairing the lack of taste and or smell as one of the main symptoms associated with mild COVID cases. This isn't a theory, but I just think it's cool. You know how movies and shows always have this ancient alien race that came way before us, and we're the new species? Well, technically, most likely that's wrong. We are near the beginning of the universe. If the universe was a person, we would literally just be out of the womb. In reality, we are the ancient species. We are the ones that come before. We are the ones some future civilization may see. That you might be aware of everything happening to you during surgery. The anesthesia keeps you from moving and causes you to forget. The one that bugs me was the one about the guy who was last seen in an airport. There's video of him just wigging the out and running away at full speed. They linked the surveillance footage and you can see him run all the way off the premises. He was never seen again. There's lots of theories about what happened. None I wanna look too far into. I saw the video about the theory of grey goop, in which one day we invent micro robots used to break down waste, but could somehow evolve to consume all carbon-based organic matter. This would eventually lead to them consuming all life on Earth. I was mildly freaked out by the idea of it. It'd be the most horrifying means of extinction. Basically heat exchange theory. It's scary that there are thousands of serial killers out there at any one given time who often just blend in with the rest of society and live normal lives. Many will never be caught. The comment. Criminals are so stupid. No. Criminals who get caught are stupid and we can't catch the smart ones. Philosophical zombies. Theory that a good portion of the human race lack conscious experience. If you've ever dissociated or done something and don't recall, driven home but have no recollection, your brain acting on autopilot, that's what they are like. They do everything required to be human. They ape emotions. Go through life. They just lack sentience. I came into this thread unafraid of death. I'm leaving petrified, thanks. That mind control actually exists. It's something that would never go public because whoever was able to perfect it first would be in the position to use it on whoever is aware of its existence. Sometimes I'll encounter random strangers that I get a strange vibe from. Like they're noticing me more. It's made me think. What if there are time traveling tourists just walking around? And I'm someone important and they want to meet me before I do whatever it is I'm going to do? The theory about why aliens haven't contacted or interacted with us is because they have observed our planet's society and determined that we're still too primitive and there's basically no point talking to us. You wouldn't walk into a rainforest and try to have an intellectual conversation with a monkey because they wouldn't understand what you're saying. I also like the theory that the UFOs we see could potentially be of extraterrestrial origin. And they are most likely just advanced drones going around to each planet in the galaxy, recording the data and daisy chaining it back to a civilization that probably doesn't even exist anymore. More of a story than a theory. But it correlates to some of these and makes me think some could be real. When I was younger I had this little stuffed animal dog I named Rocky. One night, my younger sisters and I, who all slept in the same room so we could hang out together, were messing around. And I two-handed overhead tossed Rocky into the wall directly in front of my bed. He hit the wall, slid down behind whatever was in front of my bed, and was never seen again. I immediately went to go get him and he just wasn't anywhere. He tore the whole entire small room apart. We all saw the event occur. Over time the room has been completely emptied out. Everything in it rearranged. Walls painted. Everything, and no Rocky. He just completely phased out of existence. Makes me think he glitched out of the system or something. That we have so little data about the deep dark parts of the ocean and don't truly know what lurks there. There is a theory which states that if ever anyone discovers exactly what a universe is for and why it is here, it will instantly disappear and be replaced by something even more bizarre and inexplicable. There is another theory which states that this has already happened. I'm in a nursing home with dementia in 2060. And all I'm doing is reliving this moment of November 2020. Spontaneous combustion. I watched a strange but true episode about this as a child and was convinced I'd randomly burst into flames one day. I'm over it now, but that was my top fear for a long time. I've looked into it. Nearly every case happened while the person was drinking and smoking at the same time. That we can sense when someone is watching us. So when we're alone and we get that feeling, someone is probably watching you. My GF has a story. When she was 13, she and her friend would watch horror movies in the dark of her room. A room that was located next to a fence canal. One night, they both look over to see a pair of eyes through the blinds, watching them. They run from the room screaming, only to be told by the father of the house that they had been watching too many scary movies. 2 months later, the mother of the house opened the door to a strange man who proceeded to pay and kill her. When he was caught, he admitted to having stalked the house for months before the murder. My GF and her friend had actually seen this deranged rapist murderer watching them. Please. I can post link to the news story if proof is needed. This world is one ed up place, folks. The theory that we're all quantum immortals and when someone dies in our reality for them they just keep on going in a reality where they didn't. That the universe is infinite and there could be billions of other living organisms that all know about us and have significantly better technology and could wipe us out at any moment but choose to leave us be because they know that we don't know about them. Kinda like some indigenous tribes that live secluded and don't know that we are this civilized and technologically advanced. Sometime in the future, if we don't disappear before, humans will probably be able to bioengineer themselves to avoid death by old age. Most probably only the richest people would get this, founding an immortal elite of dynasties that will be able to rule nations by themselves, while common people simply keep dying as always. Now almost everyone think of death as something normal and inevitable, as part of our nature. But then, in that hypothetical future, death will be seen like a disease which it's kept away from common people by that ruling elite. This is pretty cliche, but the theory that your whole known life you've been in a coma and have imagined everything. Your family isn't really your family and everyone and everything doesn't actually exist. Then when you wake up you'll have to live through life all over again with connections you've made to fake people. Read a comment somewhere here about a guy who, I think, got a concussion at a football game. Then lived the next 20 years. Wife and kids until his lamp was strange one day and then he just stared at it until he came to in a hospital and was back in his youth. Trying to explain how he was mourning his family that never existed. Ed me up thinking how I'd never know if this was all just a hallucination of my brain right now. I had a professor in college who taught physics and he explained why we will likely never come across aliens. The universe is about 14 billion years old. Over the course of that time, it's likely that intelligent life, besides life on Earth, has existed. However, 14 billion years is an insanely long time. Other life forms have probably risen and fallen thousands of times over. Extreme dynasties with technology we can only dream of having have probably existed. Life forms could have lasted hundreds of thousands of years and still not even be close to our timeline. The chances of other intelligent life forms existing at the same time as humans. In the 14 billion years the universe has hosted a possibility for life is really unlikely. Statistically, intelligent life to have formed, prospered, or even existed at the same time as humans is extremely small simply due to the absolute drop in a bucket that we are on terms of time. We may very well be completely alone in the universe. I like that this thread is filled with nightmarish death alien apocalypse universe ending scenarios, but the top post is about someone's mother-in-law coming to live with them. May or not be a theory, but the first thing I thought of was that feeling you get when you're on top of a building and think what if I jumped? Or when you're driving and think what if I just swerve into traffic? Well, it's actually got a name. El Apple du Vide. French for the call of the void. I always thought the idea of some ethereal presence calling you towards darkness creepy. Edit. Thank you all for the love and awards. I prefer the call of the void. But thank you all for sharing the other names for this phenomenon. I hadn't heard them all. It's comforting to know that we've all had this feeling at some point. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're suicidal homicidal. It's normal. Just that pesky void at it again. Any type of human trafficking. Poor young kids. Vulnerable women trafficked for sex. Kept in cages. In tiny apartments without beds or any amenities. Any forcibly hooked on drugs to keep them compliant and dependent on their owners. Forced into terrifying encounters. Barely fed or clothed. In places like Dubai there are tens of thousands of Asian manual laborers who are essentially slaves who have their passports removed, forced to live in severely overcrowded apartments. With upwards of 30+ men sharing a one-bedroom shoebox apartments. No access to medical care. Not access to legal support. Paid barely enough to feed themselves. Who went into Dubai on short-term contracts to provide for their families. But unable to get home. They then lapse the legal period of their visas and contracts. Which means if they go to the police to try and leave back home, they face steep fines and jail time for overstaying. Which serves as a deterrent to them reaching out for help. Any of those scenarios is purely awful and terrifying to me. More of a philosophical idea rather than a theory. But solipsism. The idea that you are the only one that is real and that exists in this world. Everyone else and everything else is fake or is an illusion. Edit. People seem to liken solipsism with imaginary worlds. They're not the same. It's not too much a matter of imagining things. Therefore manifesting a better world for yourself isn't a thing. It's more of just questioning if anything outside of yourself is even real. It doesn't mean you have the intelligence or power to consciously make everything up. It just means you can't really prove any other's consciousness except your own. You're self-aware, but not world-aware. I should also clarify I do not adhere to this idea, but have definitely at some point entertained it. Edit too. So many people are saying they thought of this as a child. I did too. What if? What if we all thought this because we had a reason to? What if our first instincts were right, but adulthood washed it away? 0. Nah, I'm kidding. Or am I? Some people have had some strange NDEs, near-death experiences. Going through websites cataloging them can be a trip. I'm willing to attribute some of them to brain damage and some as legit, though I'll never be able to tell which is which. Deathbed visions give me a warmer sense of security. I can't imagine how peaceful it must be to die and see your deceased loved ones there to ensure you make it safely to the other side. My dumbass was like non-disclosure agreements. Our world is our perception of our surroundings in our three-dimensional life. It's possible that we are living amongst beings, things and events that we cannot experience because we are three dimensions and they are not. Edit. Thank you everyone for continuing the conversation and adding your thoughts. I must say, this is the most upvoted and awarded thing I've ever put out on Reddit. It means a lot to me to contribute to minding my fellow Redditors and really get us thinking about weird that we typically may not. Think big. Dream bigger. Years ago when I was seriously dating my now wife, Almost every time we started to have SI time her mother would call up. Seemed strange. Then disgusting when we found the hidden camera when moving her out. That everyone you know who's dead is watching you now 24/7. Even as you jerk off. And when you die they all come to greet you. The Gallian bottleneck theory. Basically the reason we've never encountered or been contacted by aliens is because they're all dead. Every alien species that evolved to form advanced societies eventually outgrew their planet and destroyed themselves. Like we are. The universe could be dying. And we'd have no way to know until we just suddenly vanish from existence. There could be a sort of quantum energy wave. Can't remember what it's called because it's been so long since I read about it. 0-point collapse. Maybe? Vacuum bubble burst? But whatever it is. It's an energy wave that starts at some point. And spreads outward at the speed of light. Annihilating any matter. Energy. And even space-time in its path. Because the wave travels at the speed of light. It is invisible. We would have no way of seeing it coming. Because any light emitted by it would hit us at the exact same time that the wave itself hits us. So, all of a sudden, the sun might just vanish from existence. We wouldn't notice because the sun's light from 8 minutes ago would still be reaching us. 8 minutes later, the earth just vanishes from existence. No warning. No trace. Everyone both on Reddit and outside of it is a bot except you. Sleep is our natural state. We just wake up to eat and mate. The man from Tord. He was going through an airport and when asked for his passport he gave the people a fully legitimate passport except the country he was from didn't exist. He argued that it was right between France and Spain and had been there over 200 years. Since the passport was legitimate but the country wasn't on the map they put him up in a hotel for the night with guards outside his 4-story room. He was gone. Along with all his things the next morning. Not a trace. The butterfly effect. It makes me feel like deciding whether to choose black shirts or white shirts would increase or decrease my chances of dying young. Edit. I wore a blue undershirt. I wonder what will happen. Edit 2. To all the people saying that I am Chidian Agonai. You all made my day. It's really creepy when you reverse path your life decisions to date. I have 2 kids I love deeply but they wouldn't exist if I hadn't made one relatively minor decision 15 years ago. Not much of a theory. More of a conjecture but fossilization is actually quite rare. It takes extremely specific set of circumstances for a dead organism to even become fossilized let alone survive intact to the modern day to be found by humans. Because of this, there are likely millions of species we will simply never know about because none of them ever fossilized. For all we know, we might not even be the first intelligent species to evolve here on Earth. There could have been a species that formed a civilization at some point and then went extinct later on. But we'll possibly never know that because there are no fossils that formed survive today. It probably wouldn't have been an advanced, industrialized civilization like the kind we have today as we would have surely found evidence for it by now. But I could easily see something on par with ancient Egypt disappear completely after millions of years. That all intelligent life kills itself. So the theory started out with the Fermi paradox. Basically there are so many planets in this galaxy, let alone the entire universe, that it is statistically impossible that we're the only planets that developed intelligent life. So where is everybody? Well, the secondary theory is that every intelligent species reaches the point where they have a technology that can kill their entire species. And that the vast majority end up killing themselves at that point. Those who survive this time in their history are so rare that we haven't found them and they haven't found us. As a species we reached that point in our history with the discovery of nuclear weapons. And we're at the height of risk during the Cold War, at least thus far in our collective history, but there are various technologies that could bring a species to this point in their history. This would mean that while so far we've survived that it's statistically unlikely we will survive long term. Not a theory but reality. Schizophrenia can happen to anyone. At any age. Even to perfectly healthy people. Imagine being normal and then waking up one day and seeing and hearing things that aren't actually there. That is really scary and creepy. That our brain causes us to see ourselves differently, literally. How we think we look when we see ourselves in the mirror photos is different from what other people see. That. At the point when we add code to an AI that is for the entity to survive, egg and military roles etc. The human race is dead. This is more of a conspiracy theory. But people think that CERN's Large Hadron Collider, where they found the Higgs boson BTW, is a portal to whole another dimension responsible for the Mandela effect. This is based on a couple of things. They have a statue of the Hindu god of death, Vishnu, in front of the building, and apparently there were a lot of satanic-esque symbols in the opening ceremony. I think 6 workers died in the process of making the LHC, and 6 people dressed as the workers are seen marching into the LHC. There were also apparently 2 people dressed as lynxes having sex. Angels and demons flying around. And a lot of other weird I can't remember RN. I personally don't think these things add up to hell portals and reality splitting technology. But if you're into conspiracy theories, it's definitely a fun one. I was curious about some of this, so I looked into some of it. It's a statue of Shiva, not Vishnu, that was gifted to them by India from their long-standing relationship working together. Still gotta look into the rest. It's also interesting